Hi there, Annette Lawler here again. Welcome back to our Localization Talent Talks, LT Talks. So for those of you that have been watching over the last number of weeks, you'll know that we've been chatting with freelance consultants. These are highly skilled freelance consultants in their different areas of expertise from across the globe. The last number of weeks, most of them have been based in Europe. And this week, as I mentioned, we'll be moving stateside. The topic of discussion today will be reinventing companies to better support local experiences for global customers. And the gentleman that will talk to us today is a gentleman called Paul Cerda, certainly no stranger to this concept, having worked in localization and globalization for large international organizations like Amazon for over 8 years and Microsoft. Paul Cerda's career has been equally split as an educator and as a localization and globalization professional. He works as a consultant to help companies redesign themselves to support international customers and workers. His goal is to help them more easily launch their products, services, and company cultures globally. If you bear with us for just a moment, we'll get Paul to join us and we'll be right back with you. So good morning, Paul. How are you today?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Good. It's good morning for you and good evening for me, right?
Correct.
Where are you based, Paul?
I'm in the Seattle area.
Okay. Lovely. I love Seattle. Lovely part of the country. That wonderful market. What's the name of the market? Is it Pike Market?
Pike Place, yes.
Pike Place Market. Okay,
I
very
don't
good.
think it's open these days, though.
No. There's not much open. We're heading into a second lockdown here in Ireland starting tomorrow for 6 weeks.
I saw that.
No fun. So a lot of people are out doing some last minute shopping at the moment. So anyway, look, thank you very much for joining us today. I suppose we'll start off by maybe a definition. There's so many terms out there. I know even I started off calling our company L10N people and ended up having to call it Lion people in the end because people kept asking what L10N was. So maybe we could stick to defining maybe globalization. What's your definition of globalization?
Sure, I try and be as succinct as possible, and there's ambiguity in it, just like there is in globalization as a whole. I use product or service culturation supported by internationalized code and localized content. Why do I use the term? I think it's important to talk about that a little bit. Culturation is really a botanical term, but it hints at acculturation, which is absolutely a negative term. Usually when you move to a country or culture, when you're acculturating to that country or culture, you're usually removing pieces of yourself or your culture to fit into the new place where you're living. However, for globalization, you're doing the opposite. You're taking a product or a service into a new culture, and you're really trying to make it a part of that culture, as if it was grown there. And so I use the term culturation because it implies this botanical sort of culturing or germinating in the soil of a new culture. And really, when you take a product or service somewhere else, you are creating a new version of that product or service. So as a product manager, you not only own the US product, you own EU, Spain, Italy, France, Germany, and then all throughout Asia, wherever you might go. These are all slightly different products. So you're really a portfolio manager once you do those first launches.
Okay, I like that term. It's warmer, isn't it? Culturalization. What was the term again you used?
Culturation.
Culturation. Yeah, it's a good term. Okay, and so what are some of the common processes that you help companies improve in this area?
Sure. I start with an assessment. I go through their overall workflow. So oftentimes I'll have a meeting with a product or multiple product people, marketing, content owners, and then also developers, all in the same meeting, because they're all looking at this process from a different point of view. Each one of them has different requirements and services that they need to support when you do this and go into new countries. And so I walk them through that discussion to make sure, A, that all of these stakeholders understand what the other team's challenges are, and B, so they begin to see a holistic view of what it takes. Because ultimately, none of this happens in isolation. everything is interconnected. And so I have that conversation, and then often I will go through and help them to do a walkthrough of their site. Where are they capturing data from customers? Where are they providing data to customers? What do they do with this data? What systems does it go to? How do they store it? What privacy considerations have they thought of? How does it get used by marketing and sales versus the content people or the development teams? What databases does the content get stored in, and how does it get stored? How does it get called? Is it secure at rest or in transit? All of these are questions that can be asked, and really having those conversations, walking through a site and illustrating where these problems might be when you add new fonts, characters, locales, sensibilities, really helps them to understand the depth and breadth of the problem that they need to face in supporting international customers or customers in non-English markets, especially.
Okay. So you're looking at helping them to evaluate their global readiness, I guess. Maybe what are some of the techniques that you use for that?
Sure, that's the first step. And once we have an idea of where they need to do work, then we prioritize that. And oftentimes what happens is there will be training for the people that are part of their team to help these professionals understand the areas around localization, internationalization, and globalization that they'll be responsible for, and provide them the strategies and tools to get there. We sometimes will recreate new metrics for them to identify what's happening in these different markets with their product. We'll work together to not only put together a strategy for launch or support, we'll also put together a tactical plan of how they can get there and continue to grow those areas. So uh, I spent 10 years as a teacher, another 10 in this business. And so I combine the two methods, and each interaction, each consultation is different, and it depends on where the company is and where they need to get. And really my toolbox is around leveraging all of my background and my understanding to help them become self-sufficient. They shouldn't have to have me as a consultant 2 years from now. I should be obsolete. They take care of it themselves.
You're working yourself out of the role, basically, from the time you get there. Okay. Okay. And you've said before that sometimes there's a need to redesign the whole organization so that they can better support the international expansion. Why do you believe that's the case?
Yeah, I think I'm going to start by giving a little information here, because a lot of organizations grow into international product from either the sales and marketing end or from the operational end. And by that I mean they either get an opportunity where they can launch their product but it just needs to be in one more locale than they have, which launches that process. Or, we're a mature company, and so we should probably be in more places. So let's go ahead and just start putting it in different languages. Now, both of those areas, both of those processes creates a business that hasn't really made any consideration for what it means to have this in those new locales. It's more of a check item list. So what I really think about is it a first class citizen? Are your customers in other countries as important as your customers in your home market? And if they are, then you should really reassess the way you've designed your company and make the globalization process a part of the initial development process, which then necessitates a lot of changes to the overall organization.
Hmm. Okay, I mean, you've had a long and successful career in this area, working for companies, 8 years in Amazon and then Microsoft, and now you're consulting with companies all over. Are there particular commonalities that you see?
Yeah, startups often get into it and then create themselves technical and content debt because they've launched in a country but haven't really created a process or created multiple processes for content lifecycle management, integrating internationalization as part of the development process, supporting different currencies, building in things like ICU to their development process, or even strategically at the strategic level, thinking about how certain product features will translate over into new cultures. And I probably shouldn't use the term translate there. Maybe more along the lines of adapt to new culture.
Okay. Okay, I mean, ultimately, what we're all trying to do, at whatever size the company is to better align their global customers. So, what would be one change that you would suggest that a company could make to reach that goal?
Remove globalization, localization from the operations and
Hmm.
the marketing levels in a business. Not that they don't have a place there, but by putting them in those places and organizations, really what you're saying is this is a post development process and not a pre development process. Because when it's in marketing, it's really adapting the content that's already been created to the new markets. Now, there may be transcreation, transliteration involved, but you're really trying to convey the same message across into a different culture. And when it's in operations, it's really a checkbox. We've already done it in the US. Now let's get it out to the rest of the world. Um, that implies a lot about how your business looks at these international markets, which is, I think, a little problematic, but it's often where it ends up. It's just
Okay.
the way, the nature of the business. And so, if that would be my advice to any company, just to reevaluate that.
So think about this sooner rather than later. Even if you're, a startup company and you've got angel investing, you've got some funding, think about this process first, I guess is what you're saying, rather than leaving it till the end.
Yeah, I guess that's a little unrealistic, but as soon as you realize that you've made the mistake, fix it.
Okay.
Because otherwise you continue to build on it, and pretty soon the inertia to change, the inertia to leave things as they are prevents any change whatsoever. And so then everybody in the system is kind of stuck with how it started, and there's no appetite to fix it.
Okay. Excellent. Paul, thank you so much for joining us today from Seattle. Those are wonderful tips. If you want to get in touch with Paul, there'll be more information on that coming up next. Paul, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
So you've been watching LT Talks, Localization Talent Talks. Thanks very much to our guest Paul Cerda joining us this week from the US, talking to us about reinventing companies to better support local experiences for global customers. If you'd like more information on this topic, if you'd like to get in touch with Paul, you can do so directly or just get in contact with us via our website. Information on where to find our website and our social sites coming up next. Please join us next week where we'll be staying stateside. I'm Annette Lawler. Thank you for watching.